How do we inspire people when sources of inspiration are constantly changing? How do we instill hope when battle is prolonged? As the world starts behaving normal in this new normal, we see this virus still impacting millions across the globe. Uncertainty is also seen in our response. But this pandemic has also opened doors for unprecedented growth ahead. Various platforms help people to connect where good work is appropriately appreciated and acknowledged. In this dynamic world, everything is created, either through effect or impact. Nothing is permanent. Shape, size, conditions, everything changes. As we start migrating from gloomy world to a brighter world, our economic activity should grow faster to accommodate the ever-expanding world. In this circular economy, our transactions are the way forward. Holding back is no more an option today. Do a transaction today for transactions to happen. As we share this loud and clear message to individuals, organizations, and nations to start transacting not just for your daily needs, but to shape, nourish, and grow to revive, retain, and replenish. In our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Arindam Haldar, who has led SRL Diagnostics, the leading laboratory chain in the country for the past 4 years as its CEO, and currently looking forward to his next professional assignment. Arindam, with 2.5 decades of cross-industry experience, has been instrumental in bringing strategic changes and contributing significantly across his multiple roles. Welcome, Arindam, to us.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. It's a great initiative by VYAPT, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
We start with our first curiosity, Arindam. How do you see the growth of the health diagnostic industry in India?
Well, let me start by giving a little broader perspective of the diagnostic industry. So diagnosis of symptoms, that's what we do. It is a crucial part of a patient's overall healthcare journey. You will probably be amazed to know that about 70% of all the medical decisions which are taken by referring physicians are based on either a laboratory or a imaging center reports. In fact, medical diagnostic industry accounts for only 5% of overall health system cost, but it critically impacts the balance 95%. And diagnostics, as you know, has a conclusive impact. We put numbers behind it. It's not just an opinion. We put a number over there, and it helps in both early detection of ailments. It also plays a critical role in the care continuum by helping in determination of treatment regime, monitoring of ailing patients, and continuing medication. So if one talks about the industry and the growth, the industry is characterized by high fragmentation today, and with a lot of headroom for growth for the organized player. While there is no formal way to track this industry size of growth, a reasonable industry estimate of the size will be, it is about 50 to 60,000 crore, and it's expected to have an average CAGR of 13 to 14% in the medium term, which is actually higher than the overall growth rate of the overall healthcare market. And there are multiple growth drivers for this higher growth, and I can name a few of them for you. Number one would be growth in non-communicable disease. NCDs, or lifestyle diseases as they are called. 2/3 of the deaths in the country happens because of NCDs, growth in that, and the chronic diseases, of course. Number two would be increasing focus on the whole preventive medicine. And it is actually going to become even more thanks to the pandemic. There'll be a lot more health and immunity awareness that, especially in urban pockets, that will help the preventive part of the business grow. Increasing per capita income and awareness levels, that typically helps an industry like ours. The increasing size of the aged population. Now, India is a young country. However, but given the large size of population, if you look at the number of people above 60 years, I think the 2011 census, which was more than 10 years back, had it about 104 million, which will probably be about double, 200 million. That's higher than many countries' size. So with the increased size of the aging population, they will need more healthcare, and that will lead to higher diagnosis as well. Increasing insurance cover. Insurance cover is pretty low as far as OPD and diagnostics is concerned, but it is increasing. That will again bode well for the industry. And last but not the least is entry of large organized players in the segment who are driving quality, automation, getting the latest technology, and higher accessibility. So I would say all the 6 drivers that I spoke about would be fundamental to keep driving this industry at a mid-teen growth.
So when you are very optimistic about the growth of this particular segment, which is diagnostic industry, so what are the opportunities you think are created by this pandemic in this industry? And can you also share some kind of transformations which is required to leverage the changing landscape?
If I think aloud, like most other industries, even diagnostic industry was severely impacted by the lockdown and pandemic. The OPD centers were closed. People were not necessarily going to hospitals unless it was required. People couldn't travel, samples couldn't travel. So obviously, we saw a deep impact, especially in the early part of the lockdown. However, the recovery has been quite strong and has happened in an extremely efficient manner. The non-COVID part of the business is recovering, and it should go back to last year's level. I can't really say how many months, but definitely not in a year, less than a year, maybe in a few months or a quarters, it will go back to last year's level. And from there, it can get back to growth. And if you see COVID-19 per se, of course, it has thrown both an opportunity as well as an additional challenge to the private lab industry. And I believe the private labs really rose to the occasion. They have worked hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the entire government mechanism to conduct testing for the patients, playing a large front-end role in this overall global prerogative that all of us know: test, track, and treat. So the first part of it is test, and private players are playing a large role in doing so. Looking ahead, if I take a little more medium to a longer term view, I believe there will be fundamentally new trends which will throw a lot more opportunities for the diagnostics. And if I break them in 3 areas, number 1 will be in consumer behavior, number 2 in corporate spending on health, and number 3 will be higher government participation in the field. So if I elaborate a little bit more, I think the consciousness amongst consumers about the need for regular checkup is definitely set to go up, as people would want to understand their immunity level in general, right? This will lead to higher preventive tests. Close to 90% of the pathology tests in the industry is still about routine blood tests measuring some very basic parameters. Probably thanks to COVID, all of us know about RT-PCR test. All of us know what is a molecular test, how it tests, So this whole molecular testing, gene-based testing, genomic testings, those segments will definitely grow. Thus, the supply side of, thanks to RT-PCR test for COVID, the supply side has been significantly increased, and the accessibility has been significantly increased. COVID will go away. The facilities that has been put up will not go away. And I'm quite certain, a lot more molecular testing going beyond just COVID will happen in the market. So that will be phenomenal impetus to the industry and will throw up a lot of opportunity. Even for the corporates, as I said, the spending on the health on their employees will go up. Mm-hmm. And last but not the least, I really hope that the government expenditure on healthcare should increase and will increase in the coming years. And the aim there ideally should be to reach out to people who currently do not have access to quality healthcare facilities. So since you also asked about, I think, transformation, and let me just speak about a few of the areas where I feel transformation may happen. So clearly, the agile organizations in this industry, and like it is true in all industries, will rethink and reorient their delivery format. While the basics of the diagnostics will never go away, they will still remain the same. But like in many other industries, the delivery format of the service may change. So just for an example, home collection of samples of conventional lab tests will grow multifold. The digital part of it, the digital platforms and the agile corporations in these sectors are already working on it. So those will grow a lot. I also feel, apart from the conventional testing in the labs, there's something called point of care test, POCT, right? And that's always a debate that is it scalable? Is it commercially viable? I clearly feel that at a slightly longer term future, there is an opportunity in point of care testing. And the last bit of transformation will actually happen in AI in healthcare and more sophisticated health data analytics, which will both help us take more informed decisions. And both of these areas will honestly be game changers.
Okay. So when you talked about a lot of game changes happening and a lot of transformations happening, and you also talked about that it has created a lot of opportunity. You also talked about that India would be a bigger market in terms of diagnostic industry because of our aging population. That's one thing which is going to come in future. So when a lot of changes are going to happen and there's a lot of opportunities, what kind of employment prospects do you see, both direct and indirect, in this segment as we see the growth in the next few quarters or say next few years in diagnostic industry?
No, I think Pankaj, that's a very, very good and important question. So if one looks at the diagnostic labs today, they probably provide employment to about little less than a million, about 0.8 million people, both through direct and indirect means. And this number is definitely going to double over this decade. With increasing accessibility as well as affordability, this industry has also helped address one more core objective of national development, which is both job creation as well as skilling. And also if you look at this industry actually ranks pretty high on both gender as well as urban-rural employment parity.
Correct.
So if you look at the 2016 WHO report, and they had actually measured this, and what they called ancillary health workers. Mm-hmm. In the ancillary health workers, the parity, what I talked about, both for gender and urban-rural, is actually the best, even amongst the various healthcare workers. And the diagnostic industry, employs a large number of them. So, but for some of the pathologists and radiologists who are, of course, critical to the industry, the bulk of the people who are employed by our industry are skilled and semi-skilled in nature. So whether you talk about the technicians and front office staff, whether you talk about the phlebotomist who collect samples, people for transportation of samples, handling of samples, accessioning, you name it, you actually need a large pool of people. And a wide range of skill development is very easily available today. And this can be accessible to many youths across the country. In a country like India, with our demographic dividend as well as where we stand on economic prosperity, you can't expect everyone to really go for higher education and postgraduate degrees, right? I mean, that's not possible for most. But the beauty of this industry is we can provide a large number of skilled employment to people, to youths, and all they have to do is do a few of these courses which are available, and then the training can happen on the job. Last but not the least, while yes, there is a employment opportunity where people can come and work for a lab company, there is also another opportunity. A large part of the front end of our industry is led by franchised service center. Mm-hmm. People like us have thousands of them, right, across the nook and corner of the country, and that offers excellent entrepreneurship opportunity at a very, very marginal investment, and with a very, very high ROI. So all put together, both from a job creation as well as entrepreneur opportunity, the lab industry can go a long way.
Okay. So we can see a lot of employment opportunities coming in future, and you also talked about in another 1 decade we are going to just double the direct and indirect employment in this particular segment. My last curiosity has to do with you as in person, and if I go by your professional accomplishments, we have seen that you have worked in multiple industries, and in every industry you have worked, you have have some kind of landmark achievements. Let's talk about Nestralite when you're part of 10x team. And now for the last 4 years in SRL Diagnostics, prior to that in many other industries as well. Can you tell me, what has been your inspiration? What has inspired you the most, and what were the non-negotiators?
Well, Pankaj, I think you have more than kind in that, but thank you for stating that. So let me, I think there are two parts of your question, and if I may, let me take in reverse order. So let's first talk about what are the really non-negotiable things for me. Okay, what is non-negotiable for me are honestly my fundamental beliefs, things that I have learned from my parents and through my upbringing as well. I believe in absolute professional integrity, quest for learning, and empathy. And these three are very, very dear to me. And whether I judge a new project, judge a new career opportunity, or indeed judge a people, I always keep those metrics in my mind. And that's very fundamental to me. And those are things I'll never negotiate on. Coming to the first one, and I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky, I would say. I have been in touch with some wonderful human beings who have inspired me all through my life, whether some of the teachers and professors who have honestly dedicated their whole life to nation building, I would say, by building their students, whether some of the great people I'm very, very fortunate to call as friends, who are all making significant impact in their chosen fields, or indeed some of my bosses and mentors who have helped me all through my professional journey. They're all a phone call away. Even today, I just can pick up the phone and speak to some of them, and they always guide me. And honestly, if I really look back on this entire set, whether it's the professors, whether it's some of those friends, whether it's some of my bosses and mentors, if I just think aloud, I clearly see some common threads. And if I can pick up a thread, I think, and what obviously makes them so much of source of inspiration for me is their absolute humility. That's number one. And the number two is the ability to simplify seemingly complex problems. So these are the two, fantastic qualities which really makes them a source of inspiration to me.
Can you also share about, you have been successful in many different industries, okay? And you have never been afraid of taking new challenges into new industry, and that also on a varied role, and some of the roles at the helm. Can you share about this particular trait of yours to our viewers?
Well, it's like this, I believe when you talk about professional careers and when you talk about life, both are pretty similar, right? I mean, that any development in life doesn't happen in a straight line. There's always a discontinuity. So whether when a kid learns how to walk for the first time, when your kid learns how to swim, one fine day, he or she will know that he can swim. So there's always a discontinuity that happens, right? And it never happens in a straight line. So it's sometimes wrong for us to assume that our careers will also happen all in an arithmetic progression. It doesn't happen that way, right? And as one says, that learning starts where comfort ends. So unless you can go beyond your comfort, unless you can jump to the deep side of the pool, you'll never learn swimming. Unless you can, sort of push yourself to go beyond the boundaries, you will never learn about it. And as I said, quest for learning has always been, one of the big metrics that I have, which are non-negotiable, as I told you some time back. And that has helped me because you learn a lot when you take those challenging roles across multiple industries. And as you know, as one becomes senior, individual competence and skills matter less. And what matters more is how you can strategize, how you can lead people, how you can, develop a strategy, how you can lead with a vision, and those remains the same regardless of anything else. So, and as I said, I have been very, very fortunate to have all those sets of people around me who has helped me in this entire journey.
Okay. So here we had the words of Mr. Haldar talking about what are the growth prospects and opportunities in diagnostic industry. Very, very profound perspectives. Wonderful. It was a great interaction with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pankaj, for having me on this forum. And the feeling is honestly mutual. Thank you.